As a Pentecostal televangelist, gospel singer, author, and actress, Bam's spiritual messages based on faith, personal growth, and prayer have inspired millions of people. However, Bam's rise to fame was not only marked by success, but also by deep personal struggles that gave her ministry more authenticity and depth. Juanita Bam, born on January 16, 1959, in Chicago, Illinois, was destined for a life of spiritual devotion and ministry. She grew up in a devout Christian family, which shaped her strongly. A strong commitment to her faith and regular church attendance shaped Juanita Bam's early years, setting the stage for her later success as a famous preacher, evangelist, and spiritual leader. Growing up on Chicago's South Side, which is home to many African Americans, shaped her early development in both spiritual and social ways. Where church life was important in the community for families like Bam's. The church wasn't just a place of worship, it was also a source of social and emotional support. Bam's early connection to God was shaped by being surrounded by people who valued faith and spirituality. As a child, she gained spiritual knowledge by going to church services, prayer meetings, and Bible studies. By the time she was a teenager, Bam was known as someone who was very religious. She became more involved in church activities, like singing in the choir, going to youth services, and taking part in churchly outreach programs. Her early work with church ministries not only helped her connect with God, but it also gave her valuable experience in leadership roles within the church. By the time she was an adult, Bam was already getting noticed as a preacher in her area. People in the church quickly realized that Bam was a great speaker, and her reputation for giving powerful, spirit-filled sermons quickly spread beyond her local congregation. She started getting invitations to speak at churches and religious events across the country. Her early sermons were about personal change, spiritual growth, and the importance of having a deep relationship with God, which struck a chord with many. Bishop T.D. Jakes' Woman Thou Art Loosed conference is widely seen as one of the most important Christian conferences for women. It gives women from all walks of life a place to come together and learn more about God. People from all walks of life can come together to hear messages about healing, empowerment, and personal transformation. In the early 1990s, Juanita Bynum was asked to speak at one of these conferences, and it would become a turning point in her career. At the conference, Bam delivered a message that was deeply personal, vulnerable, and powerful. She talked about her own struggles with broken relationships, emotional wounds, and the journey toward healing and spiritual wholeness. The women in attendance, many of whom had also been through similar struggles, connected with her honesty and openness. Bam's ability to share her personal testimony in a way that spoke to them was one of the things that made her ministry unique. She didn't just preach about it. Bam's performance at Woman Thou Art Loosed made her famous across the country and led to invitations to speak at more conferences, churches, and events across the country. She became known for her ability to connect with women's hearts, especially those who had been through emotional or relational problems, which became a trademark of her ministry. The success of her message at the conference also marked the start of a long-lasting relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes, one of the most influential people in modern Christianity. After her big moment at Woman Thou Art Music Loosed, Bam realized that her message really hit home with women who were looking for healing, change, and a deeper relationship with God. To reach more people, Bam started making different kinds of content, like books, music projects, and DVDs, that would take her ministry out of the pulpit and into the homes of millions of people. Publishing was her series of books on spiritual growth, emotional healing, and personal accountability. These books gave readers who wanted to get closer to God and heal themselves useful advice. Bam's writing style, like her sermons, was direct, relatable, and deeply personal. She wasn't afraid to share her own life experiences, both the good and the bad, to inspire her readers to face their problems and grow spiritually. Her ministry also grew through the DVDs captured the energy and passion of her live performances and made her teachings available to people all over the world. Bam's combination of written works, music, and recorded sermons made her a multi-platform evangelist who could reach people in many ways. One of the most important and influential things she did for her ministry was the No More Sheets series, which began as a sermon and later became a book and DVD. Bam wrote about sexual purity, emotional healing, and spiritual restoration using her own experiences to make a message that was both deeply personal and easily understood by many. At the heart of No More Sheets was Bam's exploration of sexual purity and the emotional baggage that often comes with broken relationships. She used sheets as a metaphor for the ties that bind people to their sexual and emotional pasts. It was hard for them to move forward in their spiritual journey because of bad relationships, emotional wounds, and the difficulties of living a life of celibacy and sexual purity. Bam was honest about these issues, which are often taboo in churches, which helped her connect with her audience on a deeply personal level. Bam's message in No More Sheets was one of healing and empowerment. She told her listeners to face their mistakes, break free from the emotional chains that were holding them back, and seek a life of purity and spiritual wholeness. The series stressed the importance of personal responsibility and accountability on the path to healing, which was a message that many people could relate to. No More Sheets was a big hit because Bam was able to balance the hard and sometimes painful realities of emotional healing with a message of hope and redemption. She didn't shy away from the complexities of sexual purity or the emotional wounds that come from broken relationships. Instead, she talked about them with a mix of vulnerability and spiritual authority, giving her readers both practical advice and spiritual guidance. Juanita Bam has had a huge impact on modern literature. Christianity is more than just her powerful sermons and conference speeches. As an author and gospel singer, she has left an indelible mark on the Christian community, using a wide range of media to spread her message of emotional healing, spiritual growth, and worship through her books and music, especially those with themes of. As Bam's influence has grown, so has the number of people who have been greatly affected by her writing. One of her most important books is Matters of the Heart, which is about emotional wounds and the way to heal through a deeper connection with God. This book by Bam delves into the human condition, focuses on how unresolved emotional trauma can get in the way of spiritual growth and a person's relationship with God. She uses her own experiences and pastoral insights to give readers a practical yet spiritual guide to getting over inner struggles that come from past pain and broken relationships. The book is appealing because it has both deep theological insights and useful advice. Pam uses biblical stories and lessons to show how people can heal emotionally by aligning their hearts with God's will. She tells readers to forgive those who have hurt them, let go of their emotional baggage, and let God heal their hearts. Her message of hope and renewal resonates especially with people who have been through emotional trauma and are looking for a way to find inner peace and spiritual wholeness. The Threshing Floor is another important book in Bam's library. Growing closer to God through prayer is the main theme of this book. Bam uses the biblical image of the threshing floor, where wheat is separated from chaff, to show how believers' spiritual lives are cleansed and changed when they pray with sincerity. Bam's teachings on prayer in the threshing floor speak to people who want to grow closer to God but feel stuck in their spiritual growth. The book gives useful advice for developing a habit of prayer, and gives believers insights into the spiritual breakthroughs that can happen when they commit to this holy practice by framing prayer as a process of purification and renewal. Bam emphasizes the transformative power of true intimacy with God in addition to her writings. Juanita Bam's gospel music career also thrived, further expanding the reach of her ministry. Her album, A Piece of My Passion. The album, which came out in 2006 and mixed traditional gospel praise and worship music with modern influences, was a big hit artistically and is a powerful way to lead believers into worship and devotion. A Piece of My Passion is more than just a collection of songs. It's an extension of Bam's ministry and a way to bring people closer to God through worship. Each song is carefully written to lead listeners into a posture of praise, surrender, and devotion, making the album a useful resource for. Not only is Juanita Bham famous for her spiritual teachings, but also for her personal story of going through and overcoming a lot of pain and suffering, which is one of the most publicized and painful ones. Among the most publicized events in her life was the end of her marriage to Bishop Thomas Weeks I, which ended in a violent attack in a hotel parking lot in 2007 by her then-husband, which brought her private problems into the light. Juanita Bam's marriage to Bishop Thomas Weeks I began in 2002, and as a famous couple in Christian ministry, their union was widely known. Celebrated Weeks was also a well-known pastor, and the two of them seemed like a power couple in the world of Pentecostalism. However, their marriage had problems, including emotional stress and control issues that eventually turned violent. The turning point came in August 2007 when Weeks beat Bam up in the parking lot of an Atlanta hotel. A hotel employee saw the attack, which included kicking, choking, and other forms of physical violence, and stepped in to call the police. Bam was hurt and traumatized by the attack, which quickly became a national news story because of how well known the victim was. The shocking nature of the attack and the fact that it involved a well-known Christian leader made headlines, bringing issues of domestic violence in religious communities to the forefront. Weeks was charged with aggravated assault and apologized in public, but the damage to their marriage was already done. After the incident, Bam filed for divorce, ending their marriage for good in 2008. The public nature of the divorce and the details of the abuse made the story a topic of conversation in both religious and secular media. While the incident was clearly traumatic, Bam chose not to let it define her, using her platform to change this. Bam turned her personal tragedy into a message of healing and hope for others who had been through similar pain. Instead of staying out of the public eye after her marriage ended, she chose to talk freely about the abuse she had been through. Many people, especially women who had been abused physically, emotionally, or mentally in their relationships, could relate to Bam's willingness to talk about her pain and trauma. Gave her ministry a new level of depth because she had a personal story that many people could relate to in interviews and public appearances after the assault. Bam was honest about the physical and emotional damage that domestic abuse does to its victims. She talked about the fear, shame, and loneliness that often come with abusive relationships. This showed how hard it can be to leave an abusive partner, especially in religious communities where there is pressure to keep up the appearance of a perfect marriage. Bam's willingness to talk about these issues head-on helped break the silence surrounding domestic violence in Christian circles, encouraging other women to talk about their own experiences and get help. Being abused and then having her marriage end badly had a huge effect on Juanita Bam's ministry, making her focus even more on themes of healing, resilience, and overcoming adversity. She used her own story as an example of how people can rise above pain and suffering through faith in God. Bam's message became one of empowerment, telling her audience not to let their past define them but to use their struggles as stepping stones to personal and spiritual growth. Through her platform, Bam also became an advocate for others. She has pushed for more awareness and resources in faith communities to help victims of domestic violence. Bam believes that the church has a key role to play in helping people heal from abuse, both spiritually and by giving them practical help like her work to change the way people talk about domestic violence in religious settings has made it a more visible and urgent issue. In April 2013, Juanita Bam made headlines when she was briefly jailed for a debt-related issue. The case was related to unpaid services related to domestic violence. Allegedly broke a promotional contract for an event and failed to pay over $140,000 that she owed a promoter for work she did for a conference. After several failed attempts to settle the debt, the promoter took legal action, which led to Bynum being jailed for a short time for failing to satisfy the court. The judgment this event got a lot of media attention, both because Bam was a well-known minister and televangelist and because of the seriousness of the charges against her. Her arrest raised questions about the money problems famous religious people face and the stresses they face. Maintaining a large ministry, the idea of a famous religious leader going to court over money problems seemed to go against the image of success that is often linked to successful ministries. This made the story even more interesting for both religious and non-religious audiences. Bam's money problems in 2013 were not the first time she had had money problems, as many people in ministry do. Bam's journey has been marked by both. In her early years as a preacher, she often lived simply as she worked her way up from small speaking engagements to major conferences and TV appearances. Even though she had a lot of success in her ministry, finances were still hard to manage, especially as it grew bigger and more complicated. In interviews and public talks, Bam has been honest about the realities of ministry finances. She has talked about how easy it is for even successful ministers to lose money. Ministries often have money problems, whether it's because of bad management, unplanned costs, or changes in the economy. Bam's money problems show the bigger problems that many religious leaders face when they try to balance their spiritual duties with the practical financial realities of running a ministry. Her openness about this issue has taught others in ministry important lessons, especially about how important it is to. It's important to be honest about your finances and be responsible with your money. Bam's openness about her money problems goes against the prosperity gospel story that some well-known Christian leaders tell. Instead of equating material wealth with spiritual success, Bam's life and ministry show that money problems happen to everyone, even those who are very religious. She overcame these problems and kept going with her ministry, which shows how powerful resilience and persistence can be. A preacher, gospel singer, and author, Juanita Bam has had a lot of success. However, she has also been criticized by the public over the years, mostly for her lifestyle and some of the things she teaches. One of the main things people don't like about Juanita Bam is that she is thought to live a very expensive life. Like many famous televangelists, Bam has been accused of living a very expensive life. Christians teach humility, simplicity, and service. Bam's ownership of luxury cars, designer clothes, and expensive homes have been used as examples of her extravagance by critics who don't understand how a spiritual leader could justify such wealth. In addition to criticism of her personal lifestyle, Bam has also been criticized for turning her fame into a business. Ministry over the years, she has grown her brand beyond traditional preaching and church services by releasing many books, DVDs, music albums, and other items. She has also held conferences and speaking engagements that people have to pay to attend, and she has sold a variety of materials meant to help people on their spiritual journeys. These ventures have helped Bam build a ministry empire with many sides. People have also said that she is taking advantage of her followers' faith. Some Christian groups, especially those that stress social justice and living a modest life, have spoken out against the prosperity teachings that are common in ministries like BAM's. They say that the focus on material wealth is a sign of. Critics say that God's favor changes the real message of the gospel, which is to be humble, serve others, and care for the poor and the outcast. They also say that the gospel shouldn't be used to get rich, and they think that the commercialization of ministry is making the gap between wealthy church leaders and their often less wealthy followers bigger. Over the years, Juanita Bam has dealt with criticism by being open and defiant, instead of avoiding it. The scrutiny Bam has often spoken out directly to her critics to defend her choices and way of life. She has said that her success and wealth are due to her hard work in following God's calling, and she doesn't believe that money and spirituality can go together. In her view, the scrutiny she faces is a form of spiritual opposition, a test of her faith and resilience, and a sign that she is on the right path. For Bam, dealing with public criticism is part of her journey as a leader, and she stays firm in her belief. Even though she has had a lot of problems in her life and career, Juanita Bam has stayed a well-known figure in Christian circles for her powerful messages of faith, healing, and personal growth. She has done this while dealing with accusations of abuse and betrayal, money problems, and public criticism. Many people who follow Bam's teachings look up to her because she was able to overcome hardships. Her story of strength, faith, and forgiveness shows how God's grace can change things even when they are hard. Over the years, she has continued to speak at conferences, host events, and release new material, maintaining her role as a spiritual leader and a beacon of hope for those who are going through their own problems.